And that looks like our recording is up and running, so it's time to get started on this evening's or morning or afternoon's webinar. Firstly, welcome to everyone joining us. This is the final webinar in a series of webinars around the Certified Innovator Program this year. Before we get started, we just wanted to really give a special mention for our colleagues over in the United States. We know there's lots of them on the call this evening. We share our support with you for the peaceful protests for racial equality that are taking place in the United States right now, and for all the educators that are supporting students at this difficult time. And we hope that everyone stays safe and well through this period of certain challenge over on the US. But thank you for those of us that have made the time to join us this evening on the call. So as we said earlier, this is our final webinar in a series of webinars focusing around our VIA20 Academy, our online innovator academy. Just to introduce myself, my name is Andrew Caffrey, and I work as part of the Google Certified Innovator Program team. I'm based in the UK and originally an innovator from the Mountain View cohort in 2016. I'm also joined by my colleague Jess, who's also signed in as Innovator Program this evening, and he's going to help manage the chat. Hi, Jess.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining.
And Jess is from the Sweden 13 cohort. So back from Sweden cohort. So welcome to everyone joining us this evening. But we also have lots of other innovators on the call. So we're going to just say hello to some of those that are in the call this evening. And there is the full directory. Our cohort directory is online and updated now. So Jess will drop a link to that chat, but let me just make sure I try and at least get to say hello to all our innovators this evening. So we have got, I'm going from the bottom there, it's going backwards this time alphabetically. Susanna's in. Hi, Susanna.
Hi there.
And do you want to tell us where you're from?
Yeah, I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. I am so excited to be here. I was part of the LAX 18 cohort, also known as the Taco cohort. And I just launched my innovator project last year.
Great, and thank you. We'll be chatting to a lot of innovators later on as we go through this. Lewis is in from NYC19.
Yeah, hi. Hi, I'm Luis from NYC19. I live in Barranquilla, Colombia. And you skipped Stephanie.
Oh, I do apologize. I've missed Miss Howell from Sydney 19. Hi, Stephanie. Or maybe she's upset that we missed her. Are you there, Stephanie?
Can you guys not hear me?
Oh, we can now. We've got you.
I said, I wonder if you did that on purpose.
I would never miss my favourite cohort, Sydney 19, out. So hi, Stephanie.
Hello. So I am from Ohio. I was a part of the Sydney 19 cohort, the best cohort ever. Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Moving up backwards alphabetically through our innovators. Good morning to Jim.
Hey, everybody. Good morning from sunny Melbourne. And I am old school, Mountain View 08. So, and we're just getting ready to take the kids to childcare. But hello from around the world.
Morning, Jim. And looks like Jacqueline's in. Good afternoon, Jacqueline.
Yeah, hi, everybody. I'm Jackie. I'm from Connecticut in the States, and I'm a member of the Sweden 2017 cohort.
And also Frederick's in from NYC19.
Hi. NYC19, Minnesota.
Great, wonderful. And I'm just making sure I don't miss people here. Who else is in? Let's have a quick look up. And then we've got someone who's a crossover in on the call. So both now an innovator and a Googler. Good morning, Chris.
Hi, Andy. Hi, everybody. Chris Betcher. Not quite as old school as Jim, but Sydney 2011 for me. And yes, I now work on the Google for Education team.
And now I've just spotted another Googler stroke innovator who's in the call and moving around the house. Morning, Kimberly.
Morning, everyone. Yeah, Sydney 13 for me now, the Google for Education team in Melbourne, Australia.
And now that people keep joining us as I'm doing this, good evening, Abid. Abid, you're muted.
Oh. Sorry. Love that function of Google Meet, don't we? Hi, everyone. I'm Abid Patel. I am the IT director at the Leading Learning Trust in London. And I'm a innovator from the amazing London 19 cohorts. And can't wait to see what comes up with VIA20. It's going to be a really exciting year.
Thanks. And then I think Stephanie Rothstein joined us during that as well.
Hi, Andy. Hi, everybody. I'm just here saying hi. I'm just supporting. So I didn't know what you were saying for the intros, but I just came in because I was excited for new people.
We're just introducing all our innovators on the call and saying hello to everyone that's in who's an innovator. And
well,
as fast as I'm doing this, innovators keep joining, so I can't get to the end of the list. Hi, Bonnie.
Hello. I just saw that Rick sent a link, so I was like, all right, well, I'll jump in.
We're just introducing innovators in the call and saying where we're from.
Yeah, I'm Bonnie Chalette. I am from Louisiana, and I attended the Singapore cohort.
It feels almost like the innovators have planned this deliberately, because every time I finish the list, another innovator joins the call. So
it was a plot.
This is the last one I'm going to do, I think, unless I've missed anyone else out. But quick check now. Rhonda's in. Hi, Rhonda.
Hey guys, just stopping in, see what's up.
Great. Well, we're just meeting all the potential new innovators for VIA20. I think hopefully I've got everybody there.
You forgot Lance Key. He's been on the entire time, though.
Oh yes, I do apologize, Lance. You've been sitting there looking at me the whole time. Hi, Lance.
No problem. Lance Key, Nashville, Tennessee area, instructional technology specialist, online math teacher, online assistant principal, and I was a part of Sydney 2019 best cohort ever.
And is that everybody? Have I now done all my innovators? I think I have.
I beg to differ, though. New York was the best cohort ever.
Oh, we're starting the cohort wars all over again. Great to see. Well, firstly, thank you to our innovators for joining us. They're going to be doing some things, hopefully, as we go through the call this evening, talking about some parts of the application procedure and also digging into some of the ideas people have got on this call in terms of their application, because it's our final workshop where we're going to dig into some of the challenges people are coming forward with. So that's part of the aim of this evening's call. As always, we have our Q&A doc available. So if at any point you've got any questions that we don't cover on the call, feel free to go over to the link there, which is in the chat at bit.ly/VIA20QA, our Q&A doc. And if you've got a particular question that we don't cover, or you want to particularly ask at any point, just drop it in the doc there, and we'll go through that doc and keep that up to date with any program-based questions about the Google Certified Innovator Program. So feel free to use the Q&A doc at any point during this evening's webinar, or morning's webinar, or afternoon's webinar. So I'm just going to do something which might be repeating for some people on the call, but I'm just making sure everyone is up to speed with what we've announced around our online cohort VIA20. So apologies, it's still a bit of a recap for some people who've been in other calls with me. We're just making sure that everyone's up to speed with the latest innovator announcements. So as you may be aware, we've made the decision to cancel face-to-face academies this year and replace them with a single online academy, which has the code VIA, standing for Virtual Innovator Academy 20. It's going to be available in 2 languages, so both an English and Spanish program running together at the same time. And if you've completed an application form for any Innovator Academy this year, you can just submit that one. You don't need to start an application all over again. If you've started one for Sydney or Sunnyvale or Madrid or Mexico, you can simply submit those ones in, and we'll take all of those applications along with our dedicated forms now for VIA20. So you can apply online. It's available on the website via certifiedinnovators.com or the Google for Education Teacher Center. You can get the application form. And the application form hasn't changed from the earlier forms. But the deadline, which we will come back to at the end, which is very important, is the 10th of July. and it's midnight Pacific time. So on the 10th of July, midnight Pacific time, that's when we'll take all of the applications from any of the academies and start the scoring process. So that's just a bit about the application process. How does it work? So the academy is broken down into 2 sections: the Innovator Program Weeks, which is an 8-week program running from around the 10th of August for 8 weeks. And during those weeks, we're going to cover the content that would have traditionally been covered at the face-to-face academies. In a particular week, there will be an hour of program sessions, and we're operating those program sessions at multiple times during the day so that they are available for people around the globe to take part in. So although we've only run this call at this time of the day, and I'm aware this is late night for some people, those program sessions will be run repeated throughout the period of a day, so you can join a time that's appropriate to you. Then you'll have, during that same week, a coaching session, and the coaching groups will be based by time zone. So the people who are in your coaching group will live in a similar time zone to you, and your coach will live in a similar time zone to you, so that you can get together with your coach at an appropriate time. And then across the period, we'll also run Spark sessions, some delivered by Googlers, some delivered by existing innovators. And those will again be offered at a range of different times to suit our cohort. So lots of different ways there of interacting with the cohort. Once the program weeks are over, there's 8 weeks of those, then we'll move into the mentorship phase, and all our innovators on the call will have had a mentor, and they would have gone through a 12-month mentorship program as they work on their challenge and their solution. And that will take place with this academy just the same. So it's a little bit there about how the program will run in its online format. We have got, and I've seen a lot of people in there already who's in the call today, we have got a Google chat for anyone who's applying to the academy. And you can get to that, the link there, bit.ly/2020 Google EI. Obviously, this is the last of our webinars today. So after today, if you want to reach out to any of us or ask any questions about the application procedure, that's a really good way of keeping in touch. And I know that a lot of people in this call are already in the chat, both innovators and potential innovators. So don't forget that chat is there if you want to use it. So just a bit of background there on the academy. Now I want to dig into the applications, and what we're going to do in today's call is very much focus on the application form and the challenges that go on there, and hopefully give some people some advice and feedback on the things they might be thinking right now of applying with, if they've got a challenge in mind at this point. We are seeing, bear in mind that you can apply to the Innovate Academy with any challenge that you're facing within education. And we are seeing a range of global challenges facing the world of education right now. I would say it's going through a period of significant change. So if there was ever a time that this might fit, this could be one where that would be a good fit. So let's now look at the application procedure. Before we do, if you want to get open a new link in another tab, if you want to head over to bit.ly/VIA20 challenge, it would be great if some of you who are thinking of applying would share with us tonight some of your ideas. And at this point, there might only be ideas. There might be things that you're thinking of as a challenge or thinking of applying with, and they don't have to be set in stone. What you write in this tonight might be something totally different than what you apply with. There is really none of this is set right now. But that link will take you to a set of slides. And when you get to that slide deck, if you pick a slide and pop your name at the top, so replace the word name with your name, or alternatively, if you want to do it anonymously, that's also fine, then just leave your name off it. So find yourself a slide that perhaps no one else is working on. I've put 135 slides in the deck, so we should all be able to find a slide. And start just at the moment by popping your name on a slide.
Andy, do you want to show them the next? I think you have it.
Yeah, I do have. That's what it looks like when you get there. So thank you for that, Jess. That's what it looks like when you get there. And the link's down the bottom there, bit.ly/VIA20 challenge. What I'm trying to do for the moment, just to start this process, is just where it says name there, just take that part of the slide deck and just replace that part with your name. So you've got a slide that you can work on as we go through talking through the process. Because what we'd really like to do today is use some of the innovators in our call to provide you guys with some great feedback about what you're currently thinking of applying with. So it'd be great if you could share with us some of these areas, but we can just start. We're going to take you through each of these little areas bit by bit and give you a little bit of time to put some content in there. So just start by grabbing a slide and popping your name at the top. And then we'll go on to the first question, which I think probably logically flows on from this. And this is taken straight from the application form. So when you apply for the Innovator Program, we ask this question on the application form. The question is, describe the challenge that you're currently experiencing in education and why you think it matters. So we want you to focus on the challenge, and at no point in this process start to talk about solutions. And I previously, when I was teaching, I was a geography teacher. So I'm a big fan of Google and all the geo tools. And often when I talk to people about the process of coming up with this challenge, I talk about thinking of your challenge like you're viewing something in Google Earth, and the importance of zooming out and just, you know, drawing right back from that to try and work out what that challenge could be. Because people often are very focused on the sort of the nitty-gritty of that challenge. So really ask yourself the why question a lot around that challenge, to think about what those challenges could be. I'm going to ask, while people are going onto the slide deck and putting some challenges in to their slide, I'm going to ask some of the innovators on the call this evening just to share with us some tips around challenges, either their own challenge or other great challenges that they've seen when they've been scoring or been involved with the academy. So do any of our innovators want to jump on and give us any advice around challenges whilst everybody else is filling a challenge on the slide deck?
Andy, one thing that I see as I'm reading through what everybody's putting on there is they're being very direct. Like I saw one that said something about during this pandemic time. Well, do we have these issues all the time? And can we use this to solve problems, you know, all the time instead of just this one time? So I think that's a problem that I had, was I tried being too direct, solving my problem, and not thinking about globally how this is going to affect other people.
Yeah, thanks, Lance. That's a really good point, which is that thinking about how, you know, is it going to last over time if we have a problem that's totally related to COVID-19. And by the time we come to academy, it could be September, October. By the time we generate a solution, it could be a year's time. Does that problem exist in the world of distance learning? Does that exist? Does it fit around that piece? Is it about blended learning at this point? So if we broaden that problem out, is a really good point. Any other innovators want to drop in and mention anything about challenges?
Yeah, Andy, when I applied for Sweden 17, the problem that I was working with was media literacy, and it was about I was filling out my application about 6 months after the Sheg report came out, and so I found having that kind of credible and expansive research and the report that they wrote after the research about how they had to actually go back to Stanford University and revise their instrument because the students to whom they were administering it were performing so poorly on it. All of that, both their narrative and their statistical results from their research, really helped me to access perspectives that I could not get going person to person around my learning community, and gave me a much broader perspective. So kind of the opposite of what Lance was saying, I was actually being too narrow in my focus, or maybe it is the same thing you were saying, Lance, but I was being too narrow in my focus, talking just to the people with whom I worked, and that report really exploded everything for me. So finding other people who are not trying to solve the problem yet either, but other people who are just getting muddy with the same problem that is engaging you was really helpful for me.
Yeah, that's a really good point, which is going to that broader piece of research almost to find that out is a really useful way of justifying the problem. Ultimately, when you submit your application to the Innovator Academy, it's our existing innovators who score the applications. So some of the people on this call are involved in our scoring process, and it's about them being able to relate to that problem. We need to be able to relate and think, yeah, that is a problem that could do with the innovator community trying to solve. So thinking about that within your call. I've just jumped in on the screen here into the slide deck. Great to see lots of people filling this in and putting their challenges into the deck. And as we go through this, some of our innovators will start to pop some comments in about some of the challenges that are going in there. So I'm going to just pick on a few. Lots of different people putting some in there. I saw one I quite like the look of. Where was it? Down the bottom here. So this one, yeah, we've seen quite a few about remote learning coming in. So this one here, which is from Kim, who must be on the call, which is helping students and parents navigate a remote environment of learning. I would come back to say, what is it we're trying to get out of the remote environment? Have we got a particular focal point around that? Because the remote environment itself is probably not an issue, but is it to do with the way they're accessing it? Is it to do with equity of access to that remote environment? Is it ease of use? Is it a usability issue? So again, asking yourself, well, why is it they're not using that environment? So performing that analysis of asking why a lot of times to try and drill down what that problem is.
I'd add on to that too, Andrew. Constantly asking yourself the why here is huge. To avoid the surface level or just your first, and this is my challenge. You have to think about your user and really what is the pain and what is the problem. Something that I found when I was applying to Innovator is that I was already trying to create solutions. You know, I'm a tech director, so I constantly try to solve problems. It's what I do, it's who I am. And by stopping yourself from doing that and really focusing on who is the person experiencing this and why is this such a big problem will really help you understand your challenge. That will benefit you when you get to the point where you can start to think about solutions. But so much work has to be done understanding your problem and understanding your users before you can even start thinking about the solution, which if you've applied to Innovator in the past, you've probably seen that a few years ago, you actually used to apply with a solution and they took that away. And you know, when I got to my academy, I didn't have a solution. I walked in there, I was like, I have this grand problem and I don't know how to solve it. And by focusing so much on that, no, this is a really big problem, not only for people, but for me, and I feel this, and this is why, I was able to focus more on the solution when I got there.
Yeah, I think some really useful advice there, and a really good point, actually. If you look back too far in the video archive, you will see some of the old applications which contain solutions. But yeah, and a lot of people are saying that within the chat already, which is avoid the solution piece and focus on the problem at this point. Yeah,
I think along those same lines, I think sometimes depending on our given position, that like I came into things thinking that not necessarily having a solution in mind, but having a direction, and that some of my word choices, even in the way that I set up my how might we, inserted the words technology in parts of it, and technology isn't necessarily always the solution. And so I think sometimes we inadvertently insert it. Like it's just a natural place that we start to go, that we think that might be the only way through. And I continued to figure out, after diving really deeply in with talking to users around particular issues, that I needed a step before I could even get there. So maybe it ended up meaning that I needed to get that mindset and I needed to figure out something related to people before I could even get them to access something. So I really, I had to take a big step back. And when I was showing my original How Might We to people, I also had it very narrowed in. And then I came to learn that I found it helped me to show it to people that were outside of my subject matter, outside of the grade levels that I taught, outside of like the area where I live. And I teach high school. I do tech support, but I also teach in a project-based learning pathway, and I teach English. I showed it to an elementary math person who right away said to me, "We have the same issue." So her information, her feedback to me was, why are you keeping it just to your subject? Why do you even have that in your How Might We? And that was really helpful feedback for me to broaden my perspective.
Great. Stephanie, thank you for that. And it's that piece again about how we can broaden the problem out. I think we're seeing that repeatedly on the call. And thank you for everyone in the slide deck who's both adding in their challenges and also to our innovators that are adding in some feedback and comments as we go through this. We're just going to move ourselves slowly through the deck. So the next one we're going to talk about.
Okay. Well, I was going to say one other thing. Don't be afraid of your problem. If it starts seeming too big, that in actuality is a good thing. If it's something you don't know how you're going to do it, better yet, because it's part of the problem. And if it's if it's growing way beyond what you think you can, just thinking about how to do it is also a very good part of the process. So like, yeah, Susanna just said yes, and she knows because she had something in mind, but she had no idea how to do it, and she's doing it. So, you know, that's how it works.
So moving on to the point of view statement. So you'll see on the slide, there's a space for this as well. Now, we have said when you're applying to Innovator that we would like to go and talk to someone who is facing your problem, whether that's a student, whether that's a parent, whether that's another member of a teaching staff, somebody outside of the school, whoever you think it is that's affected by the problem, to ultimately create this point of view statement. And the point of view statement always follows the sort of the same format. So it's the name of the person, and then we have a description of them, which is normally an adjective and a noun. So in this case, of an example here, Jose is a busy teacher. Who wants, and then what their desire is, what they're trying to have happen, and then but, and what the blocking factor might be. So it always follows that format that you see on the screen there. There's some examples on the screen there. This one could be from Susanna's, I think. Samantha is an instructional coach who aspires to reach every educator, but struggles to keep track of her work supporting educators. And we got Lisa is a frustrated teacher who needs tools and strategies to help her struggling students, but she believes every child can learn. So have a think through again with the challenge that you've now put on the slide deck, to start to think through, could you turn that into a point of view statement? Now, I know you might not have yet, still over a month and a bit to go, spoken to anyone about your challenge, and that's something you might want to do in that period of time we've got left, but feel free for the moment to see if you can generate a point of view statement around your particular problem. And while we're talking about that, we'll ask some innovators to share, if any of them can remember their point of view statements. Can any of our innovators on the call remember their point of view statements or who they spoke to for this?
I know I don't remember mine, but I remember my coach talking about these point of view statements being used within the Disney storytelling process to help build character during their storyboarding, and how to build that empathy for a character within one sentence. So they use the Toy Story example. And I mean, who hasn't cried with Toy Story? But thinking about Andy leaving, spoiler alert, Andy leaving his toys on the doorstep as he leaves for college. I mean, how do you not feel that? And it sounds exaggerated, right? Okay. Somebody needs to watch Toy Story.
You've ruined Toy Story for everyone on the call now. But we do follow that Pixar story model.
Yeah, you have to really feel it, and that's where the power is going to come in your challenge. And once you really fall in love with that challenge and who it's impacted, then you're going to be able to design a solution around those people and their feelings.
Yeah, I'll add to what Susanna has on there. When I first started thinking about what my challenge was going to be, it was with the students in mind. I wanted to make sure that students had more access to better natural lighting. And so when I did my interview, it ended up being with a teacher who had very low lighting in her classroom. And what I realized was that she didn't want her classroom to be set up like that. It wasn't her choice to turn the lights down. It was a consequence of the resources she faced. She would have loved to have provided a better lighting environment in her classroom, but felt unable to do so because of constraints. And so that interview helped me realize that it wasn't necessarily a student problem, it was a teacher challenge. And so that helped craft how I put together that statement, because I realized that whatever I developed as a solution would need to be guided by teachers needing to be able to do something rather than students taking control. Because, you know, spoiler for talking with students, if you ask students whether they want the lights on or the lights off, they're going to tell you they want the lights off. They don't know what's better for them in that regards, because it's easy for them to sleep, to pass notes around, to generally not be noticed. So it was interesting because that interview helped me shift who my user ended up really being.
Thanks, Devin. I'm just picking on some at random. So it's from the deck, and thank you for everyone for starting to share point of view statements into the slide deck. and we'll go through and put some feedback in the deck afterwards if we don't get around to them all today. This one from Gav, who's in the call, and his challenge looks to be around teaching music and how that follows a traditional format. I'm paraphrasing here, Gav, so feel free to jump in if I get any of this wrong. And the POV statement is, Michaela is a developing performer who needs to be with his or her teacher, but he's struggling with blended learning. So we can see how that may have an effect for music teachers at this point. So we can see how that challenge has become and taken into a point of view statement. The challenge there looks to be well worded in that sense. Looks quite good. Have we lost my slides there, or we're still in? We're still in. That's good. And that's that one. And I'm going to pick another one. Just let's go for, I think it was the one up here I was looking at. Where was the one? So this one was from Luke, and it was that Josh is a teacher who wants to develop the skills to redefine learning activities for his students because they value the advantage digital learning provides. So I might ask a why question around that one and the challenge, which is just why is it digital? So maybe digging into what it is the students are getting out of that digital piece. So we can justify why that is. And so maybe just digging a little bit more into that issue, and digital might be part of that action. And somebody mentioned this earlier, which is, although of course it is the Google Certified Innovator Academy, that doesn't mean that what you'll come up with has to in some way relate to a Google product, that your solution is going to be slides or docs or sheets or Google Classroom. And we've had a range of projects come through the Academy. One of my favorites from London 17, I think it is a project involving students gardening. So it's about students getting out of the classroom and planting plants and watching them grow, and has a limited relationship, in fact no relationship to technology, but came through that thought process. Because what our Innovator Academy is about applying Google's methods of thinking and its methods of 10x and design thinking to a problem that we're facing in the world of education. So we're taking that methodology from Google and applying it to the educational world. But thank you for people for putting their POV statements in. Let's just jump on to the next bit. And so
you'd be amazed how little you actually use computers while at the Google Innovation Academy at Google offices. You'd be amazed.
Yeah, I think when we're in person, we don't use a lot. I think we're going to use a bit more on VIA20. But yeah, on our face-to-face, we don't touch the technology as much. And that's actually part of our reason for wanting the level 2. Is that this isn't a course in upskilling people to use technology. People who come on Innovator have usually got good level skills in this space, but it's about focusing on that problem. So the last then part that we want to look at is creating a how might we statement. So we ask you to do this as part of the application form again. So the how might we statement is creating a question that's broad enough so we can look for a range of solutions, but helpful enough to give us some boundaries around where the actual problem ends. So it helps you focus when we come to that phase in the academy where we start to look at solutions. We are just again focusing on a research statement at this point. We're not putting solutions in. We've said that a lot. So an example we got here is how might we make healthy eating as a problem more convenient for adults. So how might we make healthy eating more convenient for adults? Could be a how might we statement. And when I applied to the Innovator Academy, I'd applied with the problem focused around marking of students' work, whether that was time consuming for teachers and whether it was the most effective thing to be doing. And so my how might we statement was how might we make marking work online easier for teachers. So I was able to define that as a statement. Any other innovators on the call want to share any tips around the how might we statement?
Ask why over and over and over again. That's what really helped me pin down the how might we. So it's super irritating when someone's saying it to you, but when like, for example, how might we make kids more interested in eating healthy food? Why is that a problem? Well, they don't eat healthy food. Why don't they eat healthy food? You know what I mean? That helps you really fine tune a lot of it.
Yeah. And can you remember your How Might We, Frederick?
Yep. Oh, did you want? I can share it. It was how might we make finding culturally representative music and literature more easily accessible for our educators?
Yeah. And yeah, because we've seen another music one in tonight, haven't we? So it's really nice to see the music ones coming forward again as a particular area of focus. Anyone else from our innovators want to share their How Might We's?
I just put mine in, and Andrew, into the chat. This was my second attempt to apply for the academy. So when I saw the application had changed a little bit from just 6 months earlier with the DEN 18 application. So I was very happy because this application actually helped me focus more on my challenge, on what I wanted to see make a difference. And so, you know, I got my POV statement with my student and then thought about the conversations my tech team and I had had. And so I realized this was the best. The how might we came from, like Frederick said, why is this important? Why do I feel this needs to be, what about this needs to be taken on? So that was pretty cool for me. Thanks.
No, and thank you for sharing that. I think that is that consistent asking a why keeps coming up, doesn't it, time and time again in the call this evening, as a really good way of focusing in on what the problem is. And not being too superficial with that, because ultimately when we come to the academy element of the program, the VIA20, that's when we'll start to think about and brainstorm some of the possible solutions.
Okay, Andy, in previous calls, one of the things we also talked about that was important was the fourth word after the how might we, and what kind of word you choose and what word you choose kind of steers you to the parts of the problem that you understand the best, right? If you're using the word leverage, or if you're using the word invigorate or something like that. My how might we question, I think my fourth word was lacking something when I set out to build my solution, and it was going through iteration after iteration after iteration of that question. When it finally became robust enough that it was starting to help me think in different ways. And I had the same problem that somebody had mentioned earlier about, I thought the problem that I was trying to address was a problem that students were dealing with. And it wasn't until why that I started to realize that yes, students are dealing with this problem, but they are in part dealing with this problem because their teachers are dealing with this problem. And so it became, how might we build networks to help ourselves to grapple with what it means to be a media literate person. And so it turned teachers and students into allies working together with the problem, rather than one working to help the other overcome the problem. But that fourth word is really important.
I was right there. So ditto on Jacqueline. I was about to say that fourth word, whatever that word, that movement, that verb word, right? That my fourth word was empower. And so I really think that you have to think about the meaning, the intentionality of every word in a how might we statement. They're not long. And so for me, I don't know if it's because I'm an English teacher, but every word has meaning in that statement. And so if it doesn't mean something, don't use it. And I really feel like you want to get right at what you're trying to say, but you also don't want it to be so short that we don't understand the meaning or intentionality. If it's a word that can have multiple meanings, we should get it in your background. You should build us up to why or what that means when I'm reading your how might we statement. So I would think that fourth word, I think Leslie at some point had mentioned that there's a website for that. I don't know if you all had gone over that, something called the fourth word. I don't remember what that might help people if they're in need of it. I'll try to look up what it is if we don't have it on here.
Yeah, I'll try and find it now for you.
Thanks, Leslie.
Thanks, Leslie, and hello, welcome to the call as well. And just picking at some of the people, thank you everyone that's filling the deck in. I was going to pick on Paul's, and then he mentioned the chat is changing his already as we're talking through it. But there's a whole range of people again putting their how might we statements onto the shared deck, and feel free to add them to get some more further feedback from our innovators. But Paul had come up with how might we make EdTech professional development more accessible to all stakeholders in our community. And so he's come up with that as a how might we statement. And one of the things I would say, just looking at Paul's reading across, was the challenge picked up on parents quite nicely. And then it became wider in the how might we statement, the community, although I quite like the parents focus part of that. Challenge of that area. The other thing I would say is that as a general rule, we see an awful lot still of applications of people who apply with a challenge focused around professional development of EdTech. And those are that's quite, I would say, if I had to pick the one topic that I've read the most number of applications for, it's how might we teach our teachers to use Google Classroom? Put it in simple terms. I see that an awful lot still on innovator applications, and I'm not saying that isn't a challenge, and that certainly is still an issue. There's still a lot of teachers need upskilling in that area, but it's that broader piece of, again, asking why and where that's leading to as a piece, but also looking at the work that's already done in that space. I think there are just a huge range of problems out there, and probably increased number this year that could be explored. And so yeah, I'd say think broader than that, because we often see people hooking onto that problem because a lot of people who apply to Innovator are in a role of tech coaching, and therefore it's very natural to expect that sort of application. So think broad and wide, I would say, with these problems as well. Any other innovators want to jump in on the how might we's? Or any other advice while we're sort of reaching towards the end of that piece? We're going to carry on going through the deck and leaving comments, and I will go through the deck after today's call. So you want to keep it open. I'll add some comments and some feedback to some of the points in there, but there's lots of comments and feedback already been added. So thank you to our innovators for continuing to work through that. But does anyone else want to add any other tips before we look at the Q&A doc one final time?
I just want to add something.
Oh,
hi, Andrew.
When did you pop in?
Hi.
It's been about
I just jumped in a little late, but just want to add something to what you just said about all of these how might we's that you've been getting in the applications. I think if you're an aspiring innovator, you have to ask yourself if your how might we is an execution problem. If it's an execution problem, then you should probably scrap it. So how might we statement should not be an execution problem, because an execution problem would be an example would be what Andrew just said. How might we get teachers to use Google Classroom? It means that you already have that solution in your head that they will be using Google Classroom. And so you're just trying to make sure that the execution is going to be seamless. So if it's an execution thing, scrap it like immediately. That is not where you want to go. So that's really how the why of it would require you to really think through what the real challenge behind it is, the problem behind the problem. So yeah, so that's my take on that.
Yeah, that's really
and
good.
Ironically, even if the end solution ends up being that they're using Google Classroom or whatever, like you could end up in the same place. It's just how you got there that's important.
And the broader problem would allow you to look at more solutions as well. Would allow you to look at whether that was the most appropriate solution, or whether there were other things out there, or other underlying issues as barriers to that adoption. So some really nice points there. Thank you, and we will, as I said, carry on going through that deck. But thank you firstly, because I'm always nervous when I come on to our last webinar that I might present to our prospective innovators a slide deck that nobody wants to share their challenges on. So thank you for sharing and putting these onto the deck. I did say we would return towards the end of our call to our Q&A doc, just to make sure there's any further burning questions people have got that they want asking. I know some of these were from last time, so I'm going to try and scroll down the bottom to pick up any new ones in. Is it possible to see innovators' applications came in? We can't obviously show you any live applications. On the website, there are a couple of examples of some statements. I think actually, Susanna, yours might be on there as an example of some previous applicants with their initial challenge how might we statement, their POV. So there are I think 2 or 3 examples on the website that you can have a look through. And we'll pop the link in there, or if that's not the right link, we'll get a link into that to you shortly.
Andy, that's just mine. I share that in the chat, so I just want to make sure that everybody else has a chance to.
I was just going to say, Devin, is it okay if I link that in the Q&A as a part of the answer?
There you go.
Are you okay with others doing that? Okay.
Devin's application.
You have my consent.
Yeah.
Thank you, Devin. And so there's another one shared there. But thank you for that and for sharing that in. Is there any other questions? There's only one single question in our doc tonight, which means we've either done a great job of answering people's questions or everyone's being very quiet. So now is a great time to get your questions in. And Jess, have you seen any of the questions in the chat come up as we've been going?
I actually put that one over there. So yeah, now someone's being silly. And
Google is far more than a search engine.
Great question. What is Google? Well,
what is Google? As we all know as innovators, Google's aims is to solve the world's to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible for all. And so anything that fits within that fits over. Have we announced the start date in August for VIA20? Provisionally, well, I've got the week. I can give it. Let me just. Sorry, I'm going to just load my calendar up in the background while I remember what week it is. But I want to say the 10th. But let me just check.
Yes.
I'll just give me a second. I was going by day. That's going to take me a while. Month.
You're talking about the deadline, Andy.
The deadline is the 10th of July.
Right.
I think the question that just asked in the chat was about the start date of the actual academy. What I do know right now is that the program, first week of program, is the sort of our week start on Saturday, so it's the 8th of August. That's the first program week, and then the program weeks run for 8 weeks after that. So the 8th of August is the start of the first program week of the academy. But obviously, as we said, there's a range of sessions within the week. So it doesn't mean you have to be there on the 8th of August, because again, within every week, you'll be able to have some choice around the slots you go to. So if you happen to be not around on the 8th of August, that's not a problem. But at some point in that week, you need to attend a program session. Lots of questions firing into the doc now. So let me jump back to that. Who's the best person to interview? If we do, we are happy to support multiple languages within the academy. So if you speak to someone in Italian, that's perfectly fine. For the purposes of the application form at this point, we need the application forms to come in English or Spanish, although we are at this point in time considering additional languages. And so I would say watch this space on that. We've still got some internal discussions around some additional languages for the academy. But for the moment, it's English and Spanish. But if you're speaking to that end user in Italian, that's fine. If the output of your project is in Italian, that's perfectly fine as well. It's simply for the purposes of application, we need to translate that in. Are they reviewed on a first come, first served basis after the deadline? We do cross-check some of the applications before the deadline, just to make sure there's no huge errors in our system. But ultimately, all our applications are reviewed after the deadline by a team of scoring innovators. Every application is scored at least 3 times. And then if the score has got a wide gap from the highest to lowest, we put additional scorers on until we get a consensus score for each application. So that's how that process works. Many cohorts have 36 to 50 how many applications will be accepted into VIA20. At this point, we know it will be at least 60 people coming into VIA20, but that number could well increase over the coming weeks as we look at the regions. What we are doing right now is we're looking at the number of applications coming in by each time zone to work out the coaching groups, and then to go out and sort out coaches to match the sort of the applications. So if we get a region of the world with a high number of applicants, so let's imagine that the US generates more applicants than other places, that would mean we'd put a bigger percentage of coaches into that area to meet the demand from that space. So, but I would say it's minimum at 60 at this point, but that could well increase as we go through this process. Interviewing multiple people, good or bad? I would say good. It gives you good feedback around your issue. Otherwise, you could be swayed by one person's view. So no problems with interviewing multiple people. How will I know if I got my application to coach, says Lance. And we're going to come back out to coaches. But as I said, we are not committing yet until we see the sort of the range of applications. We will be coming out in the next few weeks about that. I understand that there must be more challenges focused on teachers, EdTech, PD than the topic, but if we see this as being absolute most pressing in the community, yes, it can. It certainly can still be a focus for your application. And I'm not saying don't apply with PD, but what I'm saying is drill down the why statement on teachers PD and work out if that is really what the issue is. What are we trying to train them at? What are we trying to train the teachers in? And why are we training them in that? Why are we training teachers in EdTech? Is it because we want to add variety to the curriculum? Is it because we need to support distance learning? Is it because we need to engage with students or different ability students in different ways? What's the actual reason for the PD in the first place? So that Gavin's writing something out. If we're unsuccessful, are we able, possibly that's going to say, are we able to apply again? Certainly. And most of the innovators, it'd be really interesting actually, innovators on the call who've got the cameras on, just hold your fingers up. How many times did you apply? I was 3, so I was rejected twice before getting onto program. And I'm looking at the Frederick, you were quite a big number. I remember yours before. Lance's twice, Jackie's 5 times. Stephanie got in.
Stephanie, you can put your camera down. I don't need. Come on, 1. That's just bragging. We don't know.
Abid and Stephanie and Susanna got in their first attempts. Lance on his second. Devin on 3. Is that Devin? Yeah. So yeah, perfectly quite common for people to apply a number of times. Is it open to higher ed? Rhonda asked that question. Yes, it is. Rhonda will remember in New York we had a focused higher ed group. At VIA20, we're not going to have a focused higher ed group because we're grouping people by time zones because of the nature of the Global Academy, but still we'd love to see some higher ed within that group. We can't release individual scores on the application. And the main reason we don't release individual scores on the application is because we actually change the scoring matrix each time round. And so the score from one application window to the next wouldn't bear any relationship to each other. So there's that one. Is there a number per country? At this point, no. We're monitoring the number of applications coming in to match our coaching pool to fit. So at the moment, there is no number per country, and we're working, of course, in time zones at this point. And so I know Philomena's from Italy because I saw her in the chat earlier. So Philomena would sit in the EMEA time zone. And so in Europe, we'll be looking at the number of applications for Europe in that pool. Lots of questions piling in now. I mean, I thought I got away with questions earlier when there was only one single question here. I'll give you a minute or two for people to put these final questions in. If the application is denied, will you be told why? At this point, we don't have the scale to come back to everyone and give them a reason. And it's slightly different to the trainer program. And I often explain this to people. If you want to become a Google certified trainer, there's a set of criteria. And obviously, if you meet those criteria, you become a Google certified trainer. It is effectively a binary yes or no decision. And the only reason you wouldn't become a Google certified trainer is effectively not following the instructions in the application form to apply. So the no reason can be very clear. For the Innovator program, we're trying to select the top applicants from the pool of applications we get. And therefore, sometimes somebody writes an absolutely amazing application that in every respect looks brilliant, but it isn't in the top, in this case, at least 60, and therefore doesn't get accepted. So it's not that there's anything wrong with the application. It's just that the existing innovators felt that 60 other problems and 60 other innovators scored higher. So we don't go out and give the reasons why people aren't successful, but we always encourage people to share on calls like this, where you guys have shared your problems, and also across social media to get feedback. And I've seen people today sharing and asking for advice on the application. Is including education your challenge requirement, or could the focus be a group outside? It could indeed. We ask that there is a relationship between the challenge and education, but we don't need it to be focused on students. It could be focused, as we said earlier, on parents or on teachers or on the wider community. Any suggestions for the video we have to record? What I would link you back to is that we did a webinar on the videos last week. So we'll drop a link in there to last week's video, and there's lots of great tips on the video from last week's call.
Andy, someone asked about a video earlier as well, the May 27th. Is that was the date that we're referring to? I think
last week we did the video application. We went through some tips for recording your video.
Yeah,
we've got that. We saved that that webinar is up on YouTube on our YouTube channel, and we can share the link with people for that if they want a link. And at any point in this process, if you have any questions, you can reach out to us, and I'll pop it in the chat in a moment. But our email address is info@certifiedinnovators.com. So info@certifiedinnovators.com is our web address. Sorry, is our email. So you can always drop us a question at the program team, and we'll aim to respond to your questions as they come in. Just to wrap up our call, we've got 4 minutes left. I wanted to rattle around the innovators on the call and ask them something that we do at the Academy quite a lot, actually, to give us a one-word description of their experience as a Google certified innovator. But just to make it extra difficult, once we have a word and it's taken, you can't say the same word. So no repetition of words this evening from our innovators on the call. We'll go alphabetically, which always makes Abid very happy. So Abid, you're up first.
Phenomenal.
With phenomenal, and then I'm going to the list. Bonnie.
Astounding.
Astounding, and then Chris. Betcha.
Is life-changing one word or 2 words?
Oh, you can hyphenate it. We'll let you have it.
Oh, hyphenated, Chris. Go on.
Good. Life-changing.
And then Devin.
Coffee.
Thank you, Devin. And then Frederick.
Innovative. See what I did?
I see what you did there, yeah. And then moving down my list. Oh, actually, we ought to do Jess, who's on the call as Innovator Program.
Sorry. Awesome. Very American of me.
And then Jackie.
So Chris took life-changing. I'm going to go with metamorphic.
Metamorphic. And then is Jim still on the call? I don't know if he's or not. He might be driving. So don't crash your car, Jim. He might be driving. Let's skip on. Lance.
Unbelievable.
Leslie.
Amazing.
Louis.
Mind-blowing.
Mary.
Electric.
It's getting harder as we get down the list, isn't it, to think words? Rhonda.
Exhilarating.
Stephanie.
Family.
And Susanna.
Oh, somebody took exhilarating. Applicable.
Applicable. Thank you, innovators. I know I made that particularly difficult. I think I got everybody on the call there, but apologies if I did miss you. I just want to say a big thank you for everyone for joining us this evening as we went through the applications. Good luck to everybody applying to VIA20. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. Big reminder in red here of our deadline, the 10th of July, and it's Pacific time, which sort of gives our Australian colleagues till the 11th of July. But the 10th of July at midnight Pacific time is when the deadline is for the VIA20 application ends. And I look forward to seeing, hopefully, lots of people who are in this call at that academy this year. Innovators who are in, thank you very much for your help and support this evening in going through those and leaving feedback. And we'll see you all soon. Take care, everyone. Stay safe and bye-bye.
Thanks, Andy. Good luck, everyone.
Take care, everyone.